Welcome to Atlanta. Welcome to Atlanta. Christ, this Officer 5000, Jeremiah, the camp leader of Atlanta. Passover 2025, starting April the 9th, we got the lamb slaughter. April the 10th, we got General Muhammad's flag. April the 11th, we got the black party that's going to have the Hebrew graduation. April the 12th, in Atlanta, Georgia, the 56th annual Passover, the only Passover under Commander Junior Hunter.
Our great and holy King has honored us for turning our lives from the darkness to the light, man. There's no greater gift you can receive than to wake up to the truth and then commit your life to saving your brothers, man. Looking in their eyes and seeing their faces and seeing what they've suffered and what they've gone through and seeing the end of it, man. It is a guaranteed seat in the kingdom of heaven, man. So in the name of our King Yahushua, we dedicate us another Passover of brothers and sisters' lives being saved.
April the 13th, we got the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Shalom.
It's that time of year again. It's the 56th annual Passover, man. You know what that means. It's time for you sisters to get your corsages. You want a brother like this?
So I can say, if I could, get a general breakdown of Matthew 5 and 22.
Straight to your body, I know that it's smoke.
If one of these brothers piques your interest, sisters, y'all need to go ahead and buy one of those white corsages for $10. Yes, only $10, man. And you only need to tap in with your camp leader to get it. But how can you be chosen if they don't know to look and come and talk to you, come and pull up on you? So go ahead and cop your white corsage today.
Right when I hit the door.
If you want these world famous heroes and soldiers to come and holler at you, how they gonna do that without a white corsage? Or if one of these men are your husband, go ahead and grab a red corsage.
Let's go a couple more rounds.
Shalom. You did your 6 months and you want to get married out here? We got brothers for you. Nice, hard-working brothers who are ready to take your hand in marriage and make you an honorable woman. Tap in with your camp leader for more details.
Straight to your body, I know that it's smoke. You know, I've been sipping on potion. You gon' ride that slow motion.
Shalom. This is to all Israelite groups and all Israelite communities and all breakoffs from One West and breakoffs from breakoffs from breakoffs from breakoffs. No matter what rainbow uniform you wear, red, white, purple and white, all white, it don't matter. You should all treat the ISUPK like your weird, misunderstood Sabbaths. You shouldn't do anything until you counsel with the ISUPK. We'll tell you when and what to eat. We'll tell you who to marry. We'll tell you who to have sex with and how. We'll tell you how to resolve conflicts with your wives. We'll tell you how to resolve conflicts with your kids, your brothers, your sisters, your parents, your friends, everybody. We'll tell you when and how to pray. We'll tell you how to direct your life in a way that's pleasing to the Most High God of Israel and our Black King Yahushua, a.k.a. Jesus Christ. We will be to you instead of a God. Just like the Most High told Moses in Exodus 4:16 that Aaron would be to him instead of a mouth and he would be to Aaron instead of a God, that's what we'll do for you. It is what you all need because none of you know what the fuck you are doing. I pray you understand. Shalom.
All right, Shalom Israel with the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Start out on 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. It's the Friday night Lashawan Qadash class where we do what your Christian pastors are ill-equipped to do, which is break down these scriptures, and give Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans their culture and identity back. And a big part of us getting our culture and identity back is getting our is returning to our language. Your language is a huge part of any nation of people's culture. All right. So what we do on Friday night, every Friday in the ISUPK is we break down the scriptures from a linguistics perspective. Which is where which is where you get a lot of the context from in the scriptures. Like a big problem with the Christian church, aside from them just being outright and blatant liars, but you might have some sincere brothers and sisters in there that really want to understand the Bible, really want to understand who we are as a people and things like that. But you can't do that because you see words like Gentiles and you think that means every other nation. When the Most High said that he doesn't deal with any other nation, these other nations, he doesn't know them. And Christ said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But we see words like Gentile, and we see words like neighbor, and we don't understand. We see words like Gentile, we see words like neighbor and brother and things like that, and we think that good night. Let me just Salakia. As I get everything together. Salakia, bear with me just 1 second. Good night. But your Christian church doesn't seem to understand that there's context to these words. And because you know what the Most High is all about, because you know that the Most High only deals with Israel, and his Old Testament, his old covenant that he made was with Israel, and his new covenant was made with the children of Israel, then you know that when you see the word Gentile, depending on the context, Gentile can mean these other nations, depending on the context, and Gentile can mean us, because we were called Gentiles. We were called another nation of people. You know what I mean? And a lot of understanding all of that comes from the language. So that's what we do every Friday. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you ask all your questions. So you stand by. Let me just refresh my page so I can share this link. All right. All right. Bear with me 1 second. So as brothers, if you was brothers and sisters, if you was a part of class last week, I shared the link. If you was part of class last week, you might have noticed I shared the link to brothers and sisters so that in various zones you can join the class you can join the class and be part of the class on video if you'd like to. All right, so I'm gonna just share that link. First, I'm gonna just do a quick test, make sure the link works and gets you in the chat. All right, in the studio. All right. Salaki. Just wanted to make sure that was working out. All right. So all you got to do, for those that can see the link, for those that Salakia, give me 1 second. 1 second. Let me just share this link while we waiting. We're going to be picking up where we left off last week in Sabbath service. So if you, what you should be, if you were tuned in to Sabbath service, or if you were in Sabbath service, we left off in Exodus, I believe the 18th chapter. So we're going to be picking up. We're going to be picking up where we left off and doing the exact same thing that we did last week. You might have noticed that the title of the class is the exact same thing as last week. Make sure you don't forget what you already know, trying to learn something new. So what we're going to do today, same thing as last week, is we're going to go through the scriptures and we're going to use what we already know so that we can further our knowledge in the Lashawan Qadash. I mean, I know it could be tedious learning different language, especially if you, you living in this hell called America, because you already speak your oppressor's tongue, whether you speak English or Spanish or Creole, Patois, or any of your oppressor's languages. You already speak a language that's strange to you. And then because of the language barrier between our brothers and sisters, sometimes we got to learn 2 and 3 languages. I mean, we got to learn, if you speak English, some of us got to learn Spanish so that we can communicate with our brothers and sisters and be able to understand them. And vice versa. If you speak Spanish, a lot of our Hispanic brothers and sisters are bilingual. So you already got to learn 2 languages. You already got to learn another language to be able to communicate with your brothers, and then learn in Hebrew, which is a language that isn't spoken in its true and untampered with form. So I know it could be tedious, and because of that, brothers can get kind of complacent with the Lashawan Qadash. So the goal of this class is to keep you from being complacent. Keep you using the Lashawan Qadash, keep you practicing it, and keep you applying it. All right, Salaki, let me just share this link. Salakia. Salakia, bear with me. All right. So I just sent that link out. Brothers and sisters, feel free to jump in if you like. Brothers that got access to that link, feel free to share it with your wives and your children. If your children want to participate and learn their language as well, feel free to share it with your brothers and sisters so that they can get in here and learn this Lashawan Qadash. And you could, if you don't, if you don't want to get on camera, that's absolutely fine. I encourage it so that we can get a live response. It's just a little bit more efficient if you get on camera. All right. So anybody that want to get on camera, I encourage it so we can get that live response and get to any questions or comments that you might have. But if you just watching online, you could type your questions and comments in the chat as well. All right. With that, we're gonna go ahead and pick up from Exodus 18, and let me just get to the verse real quick. Exodus chapter 18 and verse. We're gonna be starting in Sabbath service at 18 and 11, but I'm gonna go back just one, just so we can get a little bit of the context. Now, what we did last week, right? what we did last week, as I shared my screen. Let me see. Share. But what we did last week was we went to the scriptures and read it in the English. And what we was able to do is draw any sight words that we should know out of the English. And it kind of got some gears turning. It kind of jogged memories. You know, I know it definitely jogged my memory for words in the Hebrew, and being able to remember words and things like that you learned in the past. That's how you keep from forgetting what you know. Like a lot of these words that we hear, we should be very familiar with from the concepts and the things that we broke down in the past. You know what I mean? The Lord's Prayer, that's probably going to be one of the first prayers and one of the easiest prayers to be able to break down in the Lashawan Qadash. Just being transparent. But just being transparent, I believe my first class was just going over the Lashawan Qadash characters and the pictographs, and that was my first class that I attended. And then my next class right after that was the Lord's Prayer breakdown. And those two things went hand in hand alongside, I believe in that first class that I watched, we also went over the prepositions and possessives as well. And those things went hand in hand because you're going to need all of those things to be able to break down the Lord's Prayer. So after learning the prepositions, possessives, and the characters, then we went into for the second class, we went into the Lord's Prayer, and we was able to break down pick out the root word, figure out what the preposition and possessives was that was attached to it, and be able to really understand how the Hebrew is spoken and read and things like that. So we're gonna do something similar like that, and from things like that, breaking down the Lord's Prayer, prepositions, possessives, tenses, root words, ordinal numbers, cardinal numbers. I think brothers have gone over colors, shapes, the words that are associated with the pictographs. All of those will give you root words that you should, at this point, have a pretty good hold on. And if not, just ask your questions so that, you know what I mean, you can get the benefit of participating in the Lashawan Qadash class. You get the benefit of being in class so that we can address any gray areas or anything missing in your understanding with the Lashawan Qadash. All right, so that's what I recommend with brothers. But the point is, again, we're going to be using Salakia. Just share this class. Make sure if you haven't liked, shared, and subscribed to the class, to whatever page that you viewing it from, make sure you do that. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit your comments, check in. You know what I mean? So we can boost this algorithm up, so that we can push this truth. And if you got some relatives or loved ones that you want to introduce to the truth, share it with them as well. Whether they agree or not, you know what I mean? Share with them as well. Even hecklers, you know what I mean? I'm expecting these hecklers as well to come up in this chat. If you agree or disagree, put your comments, you know what I mean? And also share it with your loved ones, you know what I mean? Share it with people. If you don't agree, share it with people so that they can put their input as well. You know what I mean? So we can have this conversation. But to reiterate, it's a lot of from basically, long story short, from the lessons that we've seen from, you know what I mean, in past classes, it should help build your vocabulary. So what we're going to do is reverse engineer it just a little bit. So one of the benefits of being in Lashawan Qadash class, Salakia, one of the benefits of being in Lashawan Qadash class is being able to read the English so that you can get some context and then break it down into Hebrew so that you can know what you're talking about, so that you can know what you're about to read, and so that you can be prepared. All right, so that you can be prepared for what you're about to see. All right, let me just expand my screen. I'm gonna stop sharing my cam for just a second, and let me type these instructions in. Let me see. We type these instructions. So what I want y'all to do, right, is just read the scriptures that you see on the screen. We're gonna start at. Let me see where we're gonna start at. But I want you to look on the screen, read the. We're gonna start at verse 10. You'll just start there and then move forward. All right. So you get the context. But what I also want you to do is read through it and pick out, like we did last week, pick out any sight words that look familiar to you. So any words that you see in the English, see how many sight words that you could pick out and translate into Hebrew. All right. All right. So there's those instructions in the chat for anybody that's just joining or might join later. All right. So that's what we're going to do. Just read Exodus 18, start at verse 10 and go. I will go to at least the next 4 verses. So from 10 to 14 and translate as many English words into Hebrew that you see in the scriptures. All right. And then we're going to do that. And that's going to prepare you for what you're going to be reading in the English or what you're going to be reading in the Hebrew, so that once it's time for Sabbath service, you don't have to fumble over so much. You're going to know what we're going to be reading. You're going to know the context. And you're going to know the topic of what we're talking about, so you can know what words to expect. You know what I mean? All right. So I'm going to give just what time is it? 8:25 or 7:25, depending on what zone you in. I'll give you till 8:30, and then we're going to get started and breaking down. We're going to read it in English, and then we're going to get started with picking out some of these sight words. All right. We got about 3 minutes left. Let anybody in the chat or anybody watching live, I'm gonna let y'all give y'all a little second, a little bit more time to go through these sight words. And then we're gonna go over it like we did last time. And if you got any questions on or off topic, you go ahead, just ask them in the chat, make your comments on or off topic, go ahead, put them in the chat. And depending on, where we going with it, that we'll be able to deviate from the topic and address your question or comment. All right, and as I'm reading this, again, a lot of this stuff is a Yahweh Shem Yahushua Barakatah. Good seeing you, priest and officer Maisha. Most High in Christ, the water for joining. If you want to participate, also, I got that. I don't know if you saw, but I got that link in the chat. If you click that link, you should be able to join on camera if you'd like to, and then you can ask your questions and make your comments that way as well. But if you want to just stay in the chat, that's fine. I do encourage brothers and sisters to get in the chat. And also, Maisha, you can share that link with your rib too. You know what I mean? If your rib or any troopers that's not in the chat or anybody that's in the zone that don't have that link, you could also share with them as well and get them in here as well so that we can get that participation up. All right. So those are just some options. But where are we at? 29. About one more minute. Give y'all one more minute, and then we're gonna read it in the Hebrew. Go read it in the Hebrew and get some of these sight words. Most High in Christ ate the water priest. But as I'm reading this, to be 100% honest, a lot of these words stand out. Because of words that we use in a salute as well. I think 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, we did a breakdown on the salute, on what the salute means, and the breakdown on how those words and phrases are built. A lot of those, some of the sight words that you get will come from that salute. Like we say the salute all day, every day. You know what I mean? To one another. Shalom Yahweh Shem Yahushua Barakatah. Shalom Yahushua Malatham Shem Yahushua. We say it to one another every day, all day. You know what I mean? All of those words, Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Barak Atah, we should know what that means. And once you know what the salute means, once you know what each one of those words mean, then all of those words just became sight words. So once you see those words in the scriptures, you don't have to go over, you don't have to stumble over what does Yahweh mean. You know what that means. You know what Bahashem means. You know what Yahweh Shah means. You know what Barak means, and you know what Atah means. So anytime you see those words in English, and I'm giving y'all a hint with what I'm saying for some of these sight words, once you see them in the English, then you automatically should be able to translate them to the Hebrew. All right. All right, so it's 10:31 or 8:31, 7:31, depending on where you're coming from or where you at. I'm gonna go ahead and read it in the English. All right. Let's see. Exodus 18, and I'm gonna start at verse 10. And Jethro said, "Blessed be the Lord who have delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians, and out of the hand of Pharaoh, who have delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians." Salakia. Salaki. Let me just read back just a little bit. All right, so just to lay a little backdrop. So this is well after you know what I mean, the children of Israel were delivered out of the hand of Pharaoh, out of the captivity under the Egyptians. And Moses is linking up with Jethro, his father-in-law, you know what I mean, who was a Midianite. So he wasn't an Israelite. His wife wasn't an Israelite. But point is, he's linking up with his father-in-law. He's telling him what happened in Egypt and how his people was delivered out of the hands of the Egyptians. All right. So that's what you see going on here. And that's just a side note. That's what we're gonna be going into during Sabbath service. All right, let me just expand my screen. Salakia. Oh, I don't want to do that. Good night. All right. Oh. Salakia. Bear with me. All right, there we go. All right. All right, so that's where we're gonna be picking up during Sabbath service. All right, moving forward. That's what the topic is gonna be about. All right, verse 11. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all gods, for in the thing wherein they dealt proudly, he was above them. 12. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took a burnt offering and sacrifices for God. And Aaron came and all the elders of Israel to eat bread with Moses' father-in-law before God. 13. And it came to pass on the morrow that Moses sat to judge the people, and the people stood by Moses from the morning unto the evening. 14. And when Moses' father-in-law saw all that he did to the people, he said, What is this thing that thou doest to the people? Why sittest thou thyself alone, and all the people stand by thee from morning unto evening? All right, so what you're seeing, just to give another, another backdrop, what you're seeing is Jethro is about to give Moses an idea to organize the nation of Israel, because Moses was in charge of the nation of Israel. So whenever anybody needed to inquire of God, which is what it says in the scriptures, anybody needed to, any matters that needed to be addressed or dealt with, or things like that, they were going straight to Moses. So like it says in verse 13, and the people stood by Moses from the morning to the evening. So if it's just Moses and everybody's going directly to Moses, the multitude of the nation of Israel, I can't remember the exact number. I think it was like 40,000. I could be wrong. I don't want to guess, but it was a lot of people that came out of Israel, or that came out of Egypt. And morning, noon, and night, they're just waiting to be seen by Moses. I mean, so that's going to be, and as we read further, we'll probably read a little bit more during Sabbath service. We probably won't be able to read any further tonight, just for the sake of the class. But when you read on, Jethro is going to say that basically that like doing it like that is going to make him weary. It's going to wear him out to be dealing with people's matters morning, noon, and night all by himself. So he's going to tell him to like set up ranks, set up captains and officers. Under those captains, officers of much like what you see, or exactly what you see in the ISUPK. That's where we get the ranking system from these scriptures, where you got officers of 50, you got officers of 500, officers of 1,000, officers of 5,000, camp leaders, captains, so on and so forth. So that more can get done and one man isn't being worn out. All right. So that's what you see in here. All right. So now we know the context. Let's go over some of these sight words that you should off the dome just be able to see. All right. So verse 10, and Jethro said, so Jethro, right? Jethro is the name again of Moses' father-in-law, right? And also, before we go any further, make sure you're writing these words down. Make sure you're writing these things down so that you're not wasting your time in this class. You know what I mean? Make sure you're writing it down. That'll do some justice for you. Any of these sight words that you didn't know before, write them down. Write them down so that you can know them. And you should have the ones from last week as well written down. So it wouldn't hurt to have that in front of you as well. It wouldn't hurt to have that in front of you as well, and just add to that list. You know what I mean? Just add to that list of sight words. All right. But all right. So verse 10 says, and Jethro said, "Blessed be the Lord who hath delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians." So Jethro is the name of Moses' father-in-law. So what we're about to learn, if you don't know Jethro's name, because I don't know it off the top of my head. If you don't know Jethro's name in Hebrew, then you're gonna learn it. You're gonna learn it. All right. So Jethro said, the word said is Amar. All right. I believe. Let me see. Let me make sure. The Amar. Amar. That's the word for say or said. All right. Blessed be the Lord. Blessed. The word for bless is Barak. Now there's an ed at the end of that bless. Right. Let me see. As a matter of fact, let me expand this screen so that y'all can see, and I'm gonna highlight as I go. All right. Let's go to the scripture. Or I don't think I could highlight. I don't think I'm gonna be able to highlight. So you're just gonna have to follow along, all right? Do a little bit of work yourself. All right. But it says, and Jethro said, "Blessed be the Lord." So the word bless is Barak. That's a sight word that we should know, right? Because again, the salute. I told you I was giving you a hint earlier. I mean, with the salute. And a lot of the words that's in the salute are in the scriptures. That's where the salute comes from. They come from Hebrew words that come straight out the scriptures. So the word for Barak, or the word for bless, is Barak, right? When we say Barakatah, that means bless you, right? Now there's an ed at the end of that bless. So again, like we learned last week, to say ed to add an ed in a general tense or in a general context, to make something past tense in general, it would usually have a ya in the middle of it. So I wouldn't be surprised if I saw Barayak. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw Barayak in the scripture. We're going to find out what it is, but I wouldn't be surprised if I saw that. All right. I'm not saying that's what it is. Again, I'm not saying that's what it is, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that. And that's how you got to think. You apply again. Don't forget what you know, trying to learn something new. I mean, because if you do, you're going to waste your time and you're not going to be able to compound on what you already know. Then that's how brothers get stagnant. That's how brothers get discouraged. All right. So blessed be the Lord. So Barak is the root word for bless. To add an ed, might have a ya in the middle, or it might just be some different wording that might omit the ed in general. So we're going to see what that's about. Be, the word for be is hayah. Right? And you know that from the Lord's Prayer. Abba Nawa, Shabbat Shemayim, our Father which art in heaven, hallowed, Abba Nawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Qadash, hallowed, Hayah, hallowed be thy name, Shemka. Qadash, Hayah, Shemka. Right? That's how we know that, because again, if you don't forget what you already know, trying to learn something new, then you can just compound on your knowledge. You can compound on your knowledge, and things like that will stand out to you. All right. So the word for be is hayah. Hayah. Let's see. The Lord. So whenever you see the Lord in the Lashawan Qadash, 9 times out of 10, it's gonna say the Most High's name. It's gonna say the Most High's name, especially if it's the Lord with all caps. 9 times out of 10, I'm not gonna say 100% of the time, because I'm just not sure. You know what I mean? You might see some instances where it says something different, but 9 times out of 10, you know what I mean, it's gonna say the Most High's name. It usually says the Most High's name. So when it says blessed be the Lord, it'll say Barak, Barayak, Hayah. Let me go back to it in English. Barayak, Hayah, Yahweh. Where are we at? Who hath delivered? Who is, I can't remember who off the top of my head, but we're going to find out. Salakia, I don't have my notes with me, so everything I'm saying is coming off the top of my head. So forgive me if I'm not able to explain anything or something or I'll be able to explain it in depth, but if I'm not able to show something, just forgive me. I just don't have my notes right now. But point is, everything's coming off the top of my head, and that's the point of the class tonight. You know what I mean? Let me share this while talking. I should have had it shared this whole time. Salakia, forgive me. But the reason why I'm doing it like that, the reason why I'm just going off the top of my head, because I just want to show you, you know what I mean, how this can be applied in real time. So that's first of all. And second of all, I want you to, you know what I mean, I want to be able to hone in on where these things are coming from. Where do we learn these things? Why do I know these words? Why should you know these words? And I'm just gonna break it down. Why you should know these words. Where was we at? Blessed be the Lord. Who? All right. So who? I don't remember off the top of my head. I believe it's Maya. Salakia. I believe it's Maya. I can't remember, but that comes from the who, what, when, where, and why lesson. So if you want to learn who, what, when, where, why, because that's the staple, that's the foundation of asking questions or using Hebrew conversationally. That's the staple, that's the foundation of it. So if you want to learn who, what, when, where, why, I recommend brothers and sisters going back to that lesson. So you could type into ISUPK Killeen, or really any ISUPK zone, and type in ISUPK Lashawan Qadash, and then the subject matter you want to learn. Who, what, when, where, why, prepositions, possessives, root words, tenses, things like that. And that lesson should pop up, and then you'll be able to learn who, what, when, where, why. I believe what is ma? Who, I believe, is Maya. When is, it may be, I know who, what, when, where, why is ma, Maya, Aya, Mataya, and how is kama, depending on the context or how it's used. Kama is like what? Ka is a preposition that means like. Ma is what? So kama, like what? How? Right? Let me think. So ma, Maya, Mataya, Aya. It's one that I'm missing. Madawai. Why is Madawai? Right? I know that one for sure because why is in the Hebrew word Madawai. Right? That's an easy one to remember. But again, that's the point of this exercise. Because when we read it in the Hebrew, we're going to find out what the word for who is. We're gonna find it out. And it's gonna jog our memory. You should have it in your notes, though. You should have it in your notes. And if you don't have it in your notes, I can go over it again. What I just said, and that's who, what, when, where, and why. All right. Or what you can do is just do some due diligence yourself and go into the scriptures and look up who. Just in your concordance, look up who, and then whatever scripture has the word who in it, like this one here, or let's see. Or not necessarily this scripture. I don't think that this scripture is going to have the word for who in it because it's not used in a like an inquisitive manner. It's not used like who, like asking a question. It's saying like, it's referring to that who is referring to the Most High. So it's saying, blessed be the Most High who delivered you from the land of Egypt. So it could be that. It could be the word for that. You know what I mean? So it could be a number of things. Again, we're going to look at it and find out for sure. But again, Again, this is all part of not forgetting what you know. Just using what you know to kind of anticipate and get comfortable with what you're about to read in the Hebrew. All right. Who hath delivered? Deliver is Hawashai. Deliver is Hawashai. How do I know that? Because of the salute, because of the Lord's prayer, Hawashai Noah, and deliver us from evil, right? Deliver us, Hawashai Noah. So I know that from the Lord's prayer, right? The ED, I'm not sure how that's gonna be. That's how that's gonna be affected by the word. I don't know if there's gonna be a yah in the middle just for confusion or redundancy's sake or complication. I can't imagine it being Hawa Yeshai or having a yah in the middle. But again, we'll see. It's just something to think about. So delivered, you, a th is you, out. I can't remember what out is. Of the hand is yad, right? You know that from, brothers' names. Kazak yad, Barak yad, Yad Yom Matah. When we salute. Let's see. Right, things like that. Again, don't forget what you know. Of the Egyptians. Egyptian, because the topic of a big chunk of the book of Exodus is about the Egyptians, the relationship between the Israelites and the Egyptians. So you're going to see the word for Egyptian a lot in the book of Exodus. The word for Egyptian is Matazarium, or Egypt. Egyptian, I believe, is Matazarium Ya, or Matazaria. It might be one of those two things, but remember, a ya at the end of the name of a nation denotes owner, or at the end of a word, it could be me or my as a possessive, or it could just be used to denote ownership, right? So like at the end of the word for Israel, Israel is Yasharala. To say Israelite is Yasharala Ya. That ya at the end denotes ownership, right? Who does this people belong to, right? Or who does this land belong to? Because you can also see that Yah at the end of the names of land masses, right? Let's see. Let's go back to it. So it might be Matazarium, yeah, but you'll see Matazarium, some variation of Matazarium in there, because Egypt, that's how you say Egypt. And out of the hand is Yad again. Pharaoh is Pariah, right? We see that a lot as well. Pharaoh is the topic of a big portion of Exodus, right? So you're going to be seeing Pariah. You're going to be seeing Pariah all through. Well, we definitely saw it early. When Moses and Aaron, the Most High through Moses and Aaron was pleading with Pharaoh to let his people go. You know what I mean? You saw Pariah all the time early in Exodus. Who, again, we talked about that. We'll see what that's talking about. But we talked about all the possibilities already. Who hath delivered? Delivered is Hawashai. Again, the people. People, I believe, is I'm. I believe it's I'm. I believe. But we'll find out. I can't remember off the top of my head. But when you see words often, and that's the point, when you see words often, especially when you participate and you're reading the Lashawan Qadash during Sabbath service, when you participate, you'll see words often, and they'll start to like kind of they'll start to, become part of your memory. You'll start to memorize them a lot. All right. That's the whole goal. All right. But I believe people is I'm from, can't remember from, under, can't remember under, the hand, Yad, again, Yad is hand. So when it says the hand, there'll be a ha at the beginning. It'll be a ha at the beginning of yad. So it'll be hayad, the hand, right? Hayad of the Egyptians, right? Again, the Egyptians, ha matazarium, right? Verse 11. Now I know, I is Anya, no is Yadai. Like we talked about last week. I believe we ran into it last week when we was doing the same exercise. No is Yadai. Again, brothers and sisters, write down these root words, because as you can see, we're seeing these root words over and over and over again, right? So the more that you see over and over, I would recommend brothers just writing them down or trying to commit them to memory. And you will know, so that way, I mean, if you was participating last week, you see no this week, and you can reference your notes from last week. If you took good, concise notes, you would know that the word no, or you will remember that the word no is Yadai. Right? Now I know that the Lord is Yahweh, is greater than all gods. I'm not sure what gods would be. I'm not sure if it's Allah or Allah in this context, because it's not talking about, there's no God but the Most High God, right? There's only one God. So when it says, now I know that the Lord is greater than all gods, when it says all gods, it's talking about the false idols, or the other gods that don't exist. The other gods that your oppressors or these other nations believe in. You know what I mean? And that's what that's talking about. It says the Lord is greater than all gods. So I'm not sure if I don't think it's gonna say Allah there. But again, we'll see. We'll see what comes up. For in the thing wherein they dealt proudly, he was above them. Above is I'll, I believe. So above them is I'll-hum. I'll-hum. Right? All right, so we're going to break down 10 and 11. Let me share Bible Hub. If you don't have Bible Hub, you should download it on your phone. Or if you're using a laptop, or if you're on a computer or anything like that, you can type in BibleHub.com, go to the interlinear section, and then go to Exodus chapter 18 and verse 10. And then you'll see the Lashawan Qadash. Let me share my screen. You'll see the Lashawan Qadash like you see on the screen now. And reading from right to left. So I'm going to read it in English again, and I'm going to read it in the Hebrew. And then we're going to pick out some of these words that we talked about earlier. And Jethro said, blessed be the Lord who have delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians and out of the hand of Pharaoh, who have delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. All right. In the Hebrew, it's Waya Amar Yathar Slakia. Slakia. Good night. Yatharwa Ba the Slakia Barawak Yahweh Ashar. Okay, Ashar. We're gonna talk about it. I'm gonna just read it through. And then we're gonna talk about it. Make sure I get everything on screen. Ashar ha taza y'all athkum mayad matazarium wa mayad parai ashar ha taza y'all ath ha ain mathacha yad matazarium. All right, so let's talk about a couple of these words. So, waya amar. So the root word of this phrase is amar, like we talked about earlier. Amar is how you say or said in the scriptures. All right. The waya is to say, and he said, right? And again, like we talked about last week, when you, like we talked about last week, the action usually precedes the subject. So it says, and he said, right? That's the action. That's what's happening. And then it'll tell you who said after the action is established. All right. So, and he said, Jethro, right? Jethro is the one who's doing the same. So Yatharwa is Jethro, right? And let's see what Jethro means. And it might, all right, so it derives from the Hebrew word, good night, the Hebrew word yathar, which means abundance or excellent, right? The Y at the end means, I believe it means he, his, or it. All right. So his name, just off the top of my head, again, just using what I already know. You know what I mean? Using what I already know, you can assume, or I can assume rather, his name has something to do with abundance, right? Abundant is he, or he is made abundant, or something like that. Depends, you know what I mean, on the intention and how it's worded, right? I would have to double check and make sure that's accurate. But what I can tell you for sure, that the word, or his name, the root word in his name is Yathar, which is abundance or excellence. All right. So lock your, bear with me 1 second while this laptop stop freaking out. All right. So Barawak. All right. Barak is the root word that means bless. Right. Barak is the root word that means bless. The wa in the middle is a doing tense. Right. So it's talking about what the Most High is doing. All right. So the next word is Yahweh. So we know the subject is the Most High. Right. And him blessing the children of Israel. All right. So that doing tense just indicates it's talking about what's being, or what something is being done. Right. So Barak is the root word. Barawak is how you'll say blessed or blessing, depending on the context, or talking about what the Most High is doing. Right. That, now, just to be clear and just to avoid confusion, to be able to understand like certain tenses, like the ya in the middle of a word or the wa in the middle of a word, to make it easy to understand, we kind of use, or I kind of use you know what I mean, things that we already understand. Like, because we speak English, we understand ing. You know what I mean? Meaning something being done, like it's talking about what something's being done in present tense. But just because you see a wa in the middle of a word, that doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna see ing in the English. It's just you know what I mean, just so you can help, just to help you understand. All right. But the doing tense is just talking about something being done, or what the Most High is doing, what this topic, what this thing, what this person is doing. All right. So bless, Barawak, Yahweh, the Most High's name. Ashar, like we talked about before. Ashar, if you look under the word Ashar in Hebrew, it says who in red. Right. Now, I said before, because it's not talking about like asking a question, like who, what, when, where, why, because that's not how this who is being used in this context. It's referring to the Most High. The word for who as a question won't be here, and that's what you can see right here. This isn't the word, or this isn't the this isn't the word that you would use if you was asking a question, like who did this or who is that over there. You wouldn't use ashar. Ashar is a word that means that, right? So to translate into English, Jethro saying, "Blessed be the Lord, blessed be Yahweh that delivered you." So that's how the word "who" is being used here, right? So delivered. All right, so I thought it was gonna be Hawashai, because in the Lord's Prayer, Hawashai means deliver or deliverer or deliver. Let's see what this root word means. So we got ha. So we got the root word is natazal, which means to deliver, to rescue. Good night. I'm gonna give it a second. Let it stop freaking out. So lock you, bear with me. All right. Looks like it's starting to act right. All right. So the root word is natazal. All right. This is a good one, right? Natazal. If you don't notice, write it down. Write down what I'm about to say. Notice that this root word starts with a na. This root word starts with a na, right? I'm gonna go back. But what you see in the English, it doesn't have that na there. Remember, root words that start with a na, that root words that start with a na, when you add prepositions and possessives and tenses and things like, or when you particularly prepositions, when you add prepositions or prefixes to the beginning of a root word that starts with a na, that na drops off. It is replaced by the preposition. All right, write that down. That's going to be very important for you to understand, so that you don't get confused when you see words that start with na. All right, but that's what that's talking about. So the root word is na, but what you see in the English is, where we at, ha tazayal. So the root word is natazal. So all we got to do is just figure out how we got from natazal to ha tazayal. And to find that out, Salakia. To find that out, we just got to do a little bit of reverse engineering to figure out what the difference is between natazal and ha tazayal. Right? All right, Salaki. All right, so that's all we're gonna do right now. All right, we just got to figure out what's the difference between natazal and ha tazayal. All right, let me get. It might be helpful to put it on a whiteboard, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that real quick, just for visual purposes. Now, this is something that over a short period of time, all right. Over a short period of time, and then I'm gonna expand my screen as well. Nope. All right, there we go. So I just want to, I'm gonna just expand my screen real quick, and just for visual purposes, I'm gonna just put it on the board. But if you do your due diligence, this is something that you should be able to just do and just break down in your head. Most brothers, some brothers, some sisters might have gotten it already. You know what I mean? And if you have, put it in the chat. You know what I mean? If you participate, show that you participate. Show that you participate, and by writing the difference between natazal, which is the root word, and ha-tazayal, which is the phrase that's built off of that root word. So like you bear with me, I'm just grab something to wipe off this whiteboard. In the meantime, put this back on the screen. Salakia once again, and Thawada for bearing with me. All right, so I'm gonna just try to give y'all just a visual representation of this process, right? And it's gonna be important, right? Because this is how words are built. So again, when you one thing you need to know about the Hebrew, every phrase is made up of a preposition, possessive, a root word, and tense, and a tense, right? And it could be any. Let me see. Let me expand my screen. And it could be any combination, right? So it could be a root word with a preposition. It could be a root word with a possessive. It could be a preposition and a possessive just standing alone. It could just be a root word standing alone. You know what I mean? Or it could be a root word with two prepositions, a root word with a tense in it, you know, things like that, right? But that's the foundation so that you can do this is to understand that that's how words are built. So preposition, possessive, root word, tense, right? So that's all you're looking for and what we about to do, right? So the word that we're trying to, let me make sure. The word we're trying to break down is natazal. Let me make sure. Natazal. Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure the camera was looking accurate. All right. So that's the root word, natazal. We're trying to figure out how we got from natazal to ha taza yal. All right. So that's what we're trying to figure out, right? We're trying to figure out how do we get from natazal to ha taza yal, right? All right. I don't see no answers. I don't see no answers in the chat. If you got an answer, I mean, you might have just tuned in or whatever the case is. If you got an answer, if you figure it out as we breaking it down, just go ahead and put it in the chat. All right. So first, what you want to do, or what I like to do, you know what I mean? There's many ways, or there's, you know what I mean? There's more than one way to do this. But the way I do it is I consider, okay, what's the what's in common, like, because you're trying to figure out what's different about it. So the easiest way to find out what's different or what the difference between these words is to find out what's in common. So what's in common, what you got in common, first of all, is the ya and the la. So natazal and ha tazayal has the ya and the la in it, right? That's what you got in common, right? So now that you know what's in common, or actually just to avoid confusion, we do it like this. So in natazal, the ya and the la are there. And then in ha tazayal, the ya is there, or the taza, or salakia. In natazal, the taza and the la are there. In ha tazayal, the taza is there, and the la is there. So now that you know what's in common, now you just got to figure out what's different, which with this visual representation, it should be very easy to figure out what's different. All right. So if anybody want to tell me what's different based on this visual representation, you could start off there. All right. And that's how you figure it out. That's how you figure it out. So while y'all going through it, and still put your answers in the chat once you come up with anything. But off the top, I'm going to just tell you what I already told you. So I already told you the first thing that's different. I already told you what's the first thing that's different, which is this na, right? So again, if you haven't written this down, or you don't have this in your notes, or you don't have this memorized, I will write it down in your notes so that you can reference it for later, because you're going to keep seeing this concept. And if you don't do the due diligence to learn this concept, it's always going to trip you up. All right. So that na is, there's a na in natazal, but there's no na in ha tazayal. Right. The reason why that is because when you have a root word that starts with a na, typically when you add a preposition or a possessor, or you add a preposition rather, salaki, you add a preposition to a root word that starts with a na, that na drops off. I'm not sure exactly why, but that's the rule. You know what I mean? That's the common rule that you see with words that start with a na. When you add a preposition to a word that starts with na, instead of saying ha, and I just gave you a hint, all right? Instead of saying ha natazal, that na drops off, and that na is replaced by the preposition. Usually in root words, the preposition will just go in front of the root word. That's the usual rule. But with the na, instead of going before the root word, it's replaced. The preposition, instead of the preposition going before the root word, the preposition replaces the na. Right? So that's how you got from natazal to, now if I use that rule, right? So with that being said, this practically, just thinking practically, this ha has to be a preposition. It's a character that comes before the root word, ha meaning the, right? Salakia. All right, so that has to be the preposition. So that ha replaces the na. Once you add that preposition to this root word that starts with a na, that na drops off and it's replaced by ha. So instead of natazal, you got hatazal. All right? 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 Now the next thing that's different is the ya. Right? The ya in the middle. So we get from hatazal. So we just went from natazal to hatazal. We just explained that. Now, how do we get from hatazal to hatazayal? That ya in the middle. That ya, as we just talked about literally just a second ago, that ya means, or that ya in the middle is how you would put, in English, how you would interpret an ed or past tense. All right? Ed. So natazal, like we just looked at the concordance. So let me go back and share my screen again. Well, actually, I'm gonna expand my screen, but I'm not gonna go back to the concordance just for the sake of not, because you know this laptop get a little squirrely But that yah in the middle is to say ed, and you know that because in the English it says, "Blessed be the Lord who hath delivered." There's an ed in delivered. So natazal means to deliver or to rescue, right? Because we were rescued, we were delivered out of the land of our captivity. We were rescued out of captivity by the hand of the Most High. You know what I mean? So natazal means to rescue or to deliver. That yah in the middle is just to add ed. So natazal means to deliver. Natazayal means delivered with an ed at the end, right? So that's how we got there. And then the next couple should be pretty easy and straightforward. A lot of them we kind of addressed. In the exercise we did earlier. That's still on the screen. Where we read Exodus 18 verses 10 through 14 and translated as many English words into Hebrew. A lot of them are just going to be straightforward and what we talked about earlier. I mean, just what I guessed from what I already knew. The rest of it is pretty spot on and accurate. So, ath is to say two, right? To say two, or to just it's in most or to be the most accurate. Ath is to connect one thing to another, or you know what I mean. But to understand it first, at first, it wouldn't be. You know what I mean, it might help to just think two. When you see ath, just think two. All right. So delivered to you, or Slaki. I won't say that. Let me not say that. Ath is just connecting one thing to the other. So come is a suffix or a possessive that means y'all. Because Jethro is talking to Moses, but he's talking about a nation. So he's saying, so the English says, "Who have delivered you out of the hand of Egypt," but the Most High didn't just deliver Moses out of Egypt, did he? He delivered the nation out of Egypt. So when he's saying you, he's saying y'all, he's talking about the nation. He said, "Blessed be Yahweh who delivered y'all out of the hand of Egypt." Right? So that come, ka, and ma at the end of a root word or at the end of a phrase means y'all. Blessed be the Most High who delivered y'all. And the ath is just connecting the deliverance, the rescuing, to who's being rescued. So that's all that's doing. So ath come, mayad. The English says, right? Let me highlight it. The English says out of the hand, but we know the root word is yad from the conversation we had earlier. Yad is the root word meaning hand. Ma is to say from. So from hand. So delivered y'all from the hand. Matazarium of Egypt. Matazarium of bondage, straits, troubles. I mean, that's what Matazarium means. Bondage, straits, troubles, hardship, pain, things like that. All the things that you go through in captivity or slavery. That's why when you read the scriptures, the word Egypt is synonymous with slavery. You will go into Deuteronomy 28 and 68. You will go into Egypt again by way of ships, right? That's talking about bondage. That's talking about the transatlantic slave trade, right? Where we didn't go into Egypt. We didn't go into Africa with slave ships, but we was sold from Africa into another nation of people by way of slave ships. We were sold into slavery. So that's what Matazaria means, right? Slavery, bondage, troubles, plural, you know what I mean? Plural, trouble, hardships, right? Wa mayad, right? It's the same concept. So mayad means from the hand. Wa is a preposition that means and. So and from the hand, parad. From the hand of Egypt and from the hand of Pharaoh. Ashar, to say who, in this context, is that. Ha Tazayal, same word that we saw earlier. All right. It's a delivered. Ath. That ath is again connecting the delivery to who's being delivered. Who's being delivered? Ha'im. I told you before, I'm is how you say people. I'm. So people is I'm. Ha'im is the people. Right? Thakath. Right? Ma meaning from. Thakath means under. Right? Let's click on it and make sure that's accurate. Right? Thakath, like I said a second ago, means under, beneath, instead of, in place of. All right. Now let's go back. So Laki, I'm gonna give it a second to stop acting crazy. And then delivered the people, Ha'im, Ma Thakath, from under Yad Matazarium, hand of Egypt. All right. Now, all of these, most of what we just read in this verse were all sight words that we should all be familiar with. And everything that wasn't a sight word, we just learned something new. Right? That's all that just happened. That's all that happened. Right? And you want to just keep that mind state and use that same process that we just used a second ago to learn, to learn something new. Right? But to reiterate the title of the class, the key to compounding to your knowledge is to not forget what you already know. If you try to learn something new and forget what you already know, it's going to be kind of hard for you to be able to remember and compound on this knowledge. So just all we're doing is just using what we already learned in past classes, using concepts that we see over and over and over again in the Lashawan Qadash. The Lashawan Qadash is really easy. It's really easy. Once you know the basics, once you know prepositions, possessives, tenses, then the rest is just vocabulary. The rest is just vocabulary. But to understand, to make the vocabulary work, to be able to use it conversationally, you have to remember those fundamental things. Prepositions, possessive, tenses. And then from there, you're just learning root words. After that, you're just learning root words and adding, applying those concepts to these new root words that you're learning. All right. With that, we can go ahead and cut it right there. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you, if you may not be reading this or you may not be watching this live. I know brothers and sisters can go back and watch videos or past classes. So if you're watching this and this isn't a live video, make sure you like, share, subscribe anyway. Leave your comments anyway. Just do it. It'll boost up this algorithm so we can push this truth to our brothers and sisters. If you don't agree, go ahead, share it anyway. Share it, and so that y'all hecklers can get in this chat too. And say what's say what's on your heart. Say whatever you believe and all of that. Make sure you say it with your chest too, because we are willing and able and capable and well trained to defend this truth according to our culture and identity in this Bible. So go ahead and put your comments in the chat as well. And if you're not, if you're not watching this class live, you can always hit that QR code in that corner. In morning, noon, and night, a brother will be in that chat that it takes you to morning, noon, and night to answer all your questions and solve all your problems. Let me make sure. Let me see what that QR code is real quick, because I think because of the Passover, that might be the QR code for something else. Let me see. Oh, don't want to do that. Let's see. What is this? I believe it's the, that might be to pay your Passover fee. If you haven't paid your Passover fee, you gotta, you might have to revisit your brotherhood. You might have to, or, if you haven't communicated with your camp leader, or in your zone about your Passover fee, rather, we're not gonna scrutinize you for being poor, because we are in hell, so, sometimes brothers just might be going through some things. But if you haven't communicated with your camp leader or your captain to be able to figure out a plan on how to take care of that, the Passover don't happen by itself. We paying for this. So make sure you hit that QR code, handle your business, and let me see. Let's see. Yeah, I'm sure that's the QR code to pay your Passover fee. But if you're already in that WhatsApp chat, there it is in the other corner, the black and white QR code. Salaki, I didn't see it. But that black and white QR code in the other corner, that's how you can access our WhatsApp chat. So morning, noon, and night. You know what I mean? No matter what time it is, you can get in that chat and ask your questions, and there'll be a brother in there to answer all your questions and solve all your problems and get you connected with the school if necessary, or if you're not connected already. With that, say Shalom Yahweh Bashim Yahushua Barakathum to all the brothers, and Shalom Yahweh Shamar Lathan Bashim Yahushua to all the sisters.